Everyone. So talking about how to identify your ideal client and the 5-step process of identifying that client and ultimately making sales a breeze. So your ideal client really is everything. It informs what it is exactly that you're doing with those clients. It informs how you go about doing it. It informs how you actually go about your marketing, how you actually go about sales, how you go about your agency positioning. It is really that niche and ideal client is the base foundation for every agency, one that is looking to scale. If you don't have the worksheet yet, please do click on the link in the first comment below so that you can download it. So we're going to be talking about, like I mentioned, how you're going to go about identifying that ideal client and who they are, how they think, where they are, all of that. So when it comes to one of the things that I hear so incredibly frequently is that it's really hard to find clients, and that a lot of agency owners feel like they're looking for a needle in a haystack, if you will. And the reason being is that you don't really have a very clear understanding of who it is, and you're going too broad in your marketing and how you're talking to people. And so your potential clients really are not confident that you can truly serve them, because they don't understand really who it is that you serve and how you help them. And ultimately, it ends up costing you a fortune to be able to generate those leads and get them on the phone and be able to get time to be able to speak with them. And you end up being in the stressful place of, not knowing how you're going to make payroll and feeling like you need to discount your price so that you can actually sell to every single person you're talking to. And this is one of the number one things that I hear from agency owners on an ongoing basis is this particular problem. And I know that identifying your ideal client and your niche of who it is exactly that you're working with really changes the game here. So you always feel like you're in competition for all the work, right? So it's this feeling, this feast or famine feeling that you don't know who it is, that you don't know where your next lead is going to come from, and you feel like you're losing too many deals, or that you feel like you have to discount your price or offer so many different services so that they actually end up saying yes. And ultimately, like I just mentioned, you feel like you have to discount the price, so you feel like pricing is an issue. They can't afford it, so they're not going to buy. They end up being negative and try to negotiate your price down, and that their budget is too stretched, right? So you want to know exactly how you are going to be able to find those clients, right? And how you're going to get in front of them, how you're going to be able to have the cost of your marketing, if you are marketing, how you can make that as effective and cost effective as possible. And you can sleep easily at night knowing that you're going to be able to generate leads this week without too much trepidation, too much of an issue, and too much of a concern. And that it really feels like you are a big fish in a small pond, and that you don't have this massive amount of competition, and that your ideal clients, your audience knows that you're able to help them. You have easily differentiated yourself. Your agency is well positioned in the marketplace to allow for you to be able to attract your ideal client to you. Your team members feel secure in their jobs, and they feel more confident in the work that they're doing because they do that particular thing on an ongoing basis. And then ultimately, price becomes a non-issue because they trust that you're going to be able to get to that end outcome. And ultimately, I fundamentally believe this to be true, is that price doesn't really matter. What matters is the outcome. And if you're able to actually help them generate ROI, the price point doesn't matter, and it's the amount of trust that they have. And the more that you can increase that trust point up, the more that your price point can go up as well. And how you actually go about doing that is really, really, really important. So quite frankly, and I want to remove this conception from you to begin with, is that your existing clients may not necessarily be your ideal ones. And this happens more frequently than not, is that you probably have a number of clients that you're working with right now that you probably would not have wanted to sell if you had a number of leads coming in on a regular basis and you didn't feel like you had to sell them. So what I want you to think about, and what I want you to do, is remove the list of existing clients that you currently have, right? I want you to think about who it is that you actually want to serve and the industry that you're looking to serve. We're not going to really hit too in depth in the conversation today about how to identify your niche. If you are looking to identify your niche, please do comment below, and I can send you to a guide or a training that will allow for you to be able to understand how to identify your niche and how to start thinking about that process. Ultimately, what we want is for you to be able to be happy working with your clients, knowing that you're able to help them accomplish their goals, and ultimately that they're happy to really work with you and that your team is happy working with them, and that they understand and see a ton of value in your service and what it is that you do for people like them. And they just, really are gung-ho about wanting to work with you, and having a very clear understanding of who that person is, how they think, all of those things, super, super important. So what we want to do to start is determine your goals, right? You want to have an understanding of how many clients do you need to work with on an annual basis to actually be able to get to your goals. I know that this is an odd thing to start from this place, but this is ultimately the base foundation of what you need to be doing is how many clients can you be working with? How many clients do you want to be working with? And what is the revenue goal that you actually want to be at? And this is really important because you need to have this understanding in order for you to be able to identify who this person is and be able to weed them out and those qualifications of what, when, and why it makes sense for that particular person to work with you, right? And so I want you to have an understanding of how many projects or how many clients on a monthly retainer you're going to be working with on an annual basis or on a monthly basis. If it's project oriented, let's go annual. If it's monthly reoccurring revenue and you're on a retainer model, which is definitely my preference, you want to actually allow for you to be able to have that clear understanding of how many monthly clients you're going to be working with. And then the next thing that I want you to think about is their goals. Right? What are their growth goals typically in that industry and that particular client? You want to have a very clear understanding of where they actually want to get to. This is going to allow for you to have the questions that you ask during your qualification conversations, your strategy sessions, your discovery calls, having a clear understanding of what types of questions you want to be asking them so that one, you can provide them with value, two, you're able to actually consult with them, and three, you understand what their goals are as well. Right? So you want to have a very clear, is it just, revenue based? Is it, their NPS scores? Is it the amount of the way that they feel when they're interacting with the brand? What is it specifically, their conversion rates? What is it specifically that particular client is actually looking to get to? And having a very clear understanding of your niche in this particular piece does really, really help. And I'll give you some quick pieces that you want to have an understanding for your niche is, one, are you passionate about working with them? Two, can you help them? Three, are there enough of them and are they growing? And are you able to actually help them and do they need your service ultimately? And then so what I want you to then talk about and think about is what are their problems and their fears? So what are the challenges that they're facing on an ongoing basis? And what I see happens so much is that agencies are trying to sell all the different sort of nuances to what it is that they do, right? So let's say that, we're going to post 3 times a month. If you're a social media agency, we're going to post 3 times a week on your different social channels. When ultimately speaking, that isn't what they're looking for. What they're looking for is engagement and leads and people to actually have a relationship with the brand. So you need to be talking about that end outcome, right? How many leads do they want to be generating from social? How many followers do they want to be getting? What types of engagement do they want from it, right? So understanding what it is exactly that they're looking to get to and what are the problems that they are facing getting there, right? So I'm assuming that they've tried things to be able to accomplish their goal. And what was it that they've tried? What were the problems that they're facing getting there? What are the issues that they have on a daily basis that is preventing them from being able to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish? And then ultimately, what are the fears that they have if they don't accomplish it? This is one of the primary pieces that is going to actually help you in your sales process is actually communicating about that particular fear that they have. So having an understanding of what that fear is, and it can be an internal fear that they're not going to be able to accomplish their goal. It could be a fear that it's never going to work or that channel doesn't work, but you need to have an understanding of what it is that fear that they have and really what are the reasons why they would not want to be working with you, why they would not be engaging with an agency like yours. Because if you're not able to get past that fear that they have personally, you're not going to be able to sell them, at least at not the price point that you want to be at. It's very, very, very important that you have these listed out as to what exactly are they currently emotionally going through themselves, so that you can actually speak to that during your marketing and sales. And super, super, super important. I cannot really push that particular piece of this down enough. It's super, super, super important for your entire process. And ultimately, what is going to happen to them? What is it they're going to achieve by working with you? So spend some time thinking about your existing clients and the types of things that you have been able to accomplish and how you're going to be able to help them. So this is the inverse of their challenges, fears, right? So what is it that is a realistic expectation that they should have? How long is it going to take for them to get there? And what is it exactly that they need to do in order to be able to do that, right? So what is the real impetus behind the solution that they're looking for in your service? And how can you even think about targeting that particular client, being able to find that particular solution? What are the questions that they're asking? What is it exactly that they're looking for? And why is it that they're actually going to want to buy your service? And the last thing here that's super, super important is having an understanding of how they're going to go about making that buying decision. What is their decision-making process internally? And ultimately, what are the objections that they actually have in not wanting to engage with you? So depending on the size of the business, they make decisions in different ways. Obviously, having an understanding if you're talking to the CEO, the CTO, the CMO, a brand marketing manager, who it is that you're actually talking to. Small businesses versus larger enterprises make decisions in completely different ways. So having a very clear understanding of who it is that you're talking to, right? And how is it exactly that they make decisions? And just so that you have, and just showing the difference between small businesses versus larger enterprises is that small businesses, typically speaking, you're talking with the owner, you're talking with a senior leader, and most of them don't have budget. So they're making it sort of impulsively. And how it is that they're actually making the decision. They may take some time to research, look at some additional options, but their decision is made a lot more impulsive and not based on information and data. Whereas larger enterprises clearly have budgets. There's a process by which they submit a purchase order. It may need to go through risk. It may need to go through procurement in order for you to be able to become an approved vendor. But having a very clear understanding of what that actually looks like, who you need to be speaking with, this is going to guide the process by which you actually have the conversation, how you present to that particular client, and who you actually have on the conversations when you're actually going about a sales conversation. So making sure that you have a very clear understanding of how they actually go about making that decision to work with an agency like yours. And then ultimately, the thing that I also want you to spend some time on is, what are the reasons why they won't buy? And this is a really important question and gets missed a ton. Is you have to have ways to manage these objections that every single client has, and every client has them, but how do you manage that for them? And as you have heard me say before, the issues that they're facing and the objections that they have primarily are going to be emotional. The reasons why they buy are emotional. So you need to manage the emotional experience that they have throughout the buying decision. And every single question that they ask in your sales process, marketing and sales process, is actually an objection. So make sure that you have those documented. And if you don't have them documented, I want you to just start creating a list of the types of questions that are being asked and how can you manage those. And ultimately, what's really important here, and just something that I want you to think about, is that it's much easier to manage an objection before it is ever had than trying to manage an objection or trying to manage an emotion that prospect is feeling once they've started having it. So you're better off actually trying and having an understanding of what the objections that they're going to have so that you understand how to manage it before they happen. But if they do have those objections in the sales conversation, what are the actual responses that you're going to give them that's going to allow for them to be appeased and comfortable and reduce the amount of perceived risk that they have when having a conversation with you? Really, really important. I really implore you to actually put together and have documented your ideal client persona, how they think, all these different pieces that we've spoken about in this training today. It's very, very helpful for your agency to be able to grow and scale. If you have any questions about any of this, please do shoot us a message or leave a comment on the video below. We're absolutely happy to answer any questions that you have. This is a very important topic that really does have a significant amount of impact. And as I mentioned, the foundation to a growing and scaling agency. I hope you enjoyed this training and looking forward to answering all of your questions. All right, take care. Bye-bye.